Ryzen 9000 has bigger pipes than Ryzen 7000. AMD's new mobile CPUs have tops on tops on tops, and we could see them as early as July. And we're going to talk about all that right here, right now on Robeytech. Now, the Robeytech team is here on the ground in beautiful Taipei for Computex 2024, and there is a lot to talk about. Now, we're not going to be able to cover everything at Computex in one video. Trust me, we tried. But we do want to take a few minutes and talk about what AMD has going on. And let's just say they have been very, very busy. Now, if you have already watched the keynote, awesome. We're going to give you our commentary on it, sharing some of the things that we're excited about and some of the things that had us, scratching our heads, even though I'm scratching my beard, which, whatever. But if you haven't watched a keynote and you're coming into this video blind, don't worry. We're gonna share with you what you need to know about what AMD is cooking up, why it's important, and some helpful hints on how to look at new announcements like this one. So just to give you the landscape of what we're talking about in this video, AMD introduced a new lineup of desktop CPUs, new laptop CPUs, and of course they talked about AI. Everybody talked about AI, so we're going to talk about that too. Okay, so let's jump right into the good stuff, starting with the new Zen 5 processors, codename Granite Ridge. Ryzen 9000 is the next evolution of the Ryzen processor family, and it would be an understatement to say that AMD has some really promising things to talk about. I mean, it's their kid. I would kind of hope they would be proud of it. So what's new with Ryzen 9000? Well, to start off with, AMD has improved their branch prediction model to improve both accuracy and latency. This is important. They've also increased the throughput with wider pipelines and vectors, creating a deeper window size across the design for more parallelism. What the heck does that mean? So here's the way to think about it. What they've done is they've basically made the number of channels on their CPU much wider. I know I'm simplifying. And what that allows them to do is to put more instruction sets per clock. So every time it goes up and down, they're shoving a bunch of stuff down. Because you have to worry about branches, and those are all the guesses that CPUs have to do, they've made the predictability better, which means their odds of actually throwing away bad code are much lower. This means things are faster, this means they're throwing away things less, and that means better instructions per clock. So Robey, what does this actually mean for performance? Well, according to AMD, that means an average of 16% IPC uplift over Zen 4 or the Ryzen 7000 series. Now remember guys, we're talking about stuff that AMD's told us. We have not verified these numbers for ourselves. The reason we say that is not a small amount. But what makes this even better is that this performance is happening at a significantly lower TDP in certain cases than the previous generation chips, while it's also improving the overall performance, which is awesome. Now, when we looked at the comparisons between AMD CPU, it looks like we're actually going to be getting a very similar launch lineup to what we saw with Ryzen 7000 series. We got a Ryzen 5 9600X, a Ryzen 7 9700X, and two Ryzen 9s, the 9900X and the 9950X. Now, going back to the TDP for a second, it looks like the 7950X and the 9950X, actually, there's no change. They're using the same 170 watts. This is why I said some. But here's the kicker. The 9900X drops that 170 watts from the 7900X down to 120 watts for the 9900X. 50 watts? That is not an insignificant drop in the power draw. Now for the new Ryzen 5 9600X and the Ryzen 7 9700X, they're dropping their TDP from the 7000 series from 105 watts down to 65 watts. That's 40 watts. Not too shabby. And I'm very proud of how quickly I did that math. Now the picture of Ryzen 9000 gets a little bit more interesting when we start looking at AMD's comparison with Intel's 14900K. AMD is showing a 21% lead in Cinebench scores, a 55% lead in Handbrake, and a 56% lead in Blender. Now, if you want to pause and just look at the numbers with this chart right here, you are absolutely welcome to do so. Let's talk about gaming for a second, and right now we're only talking about the Ryzen 9 9950X. Against the Intel Core i9 14900K, AMD is saying at 1080p we're getting a 4% lead in Borderlands 3. We're looking at 13% in Cyberpunk 2077. We got 16% in F1 2023, and we have a 23% lead in Horizon Zero Dawn. So these numbers look great if you're playing at 1080p on a high-tier CPU. No shade if you are, but That's kind of an interesting choice. Now these numbers are without the use of AMD's 3D V-Cache, which I'm assuming that announcement's coming later, which isn't in the 9 series lineup yet. But considering that AMD has released 3D V-Cache models within the last couple generation, I'm expecting it'll show up in the product stack. It's highly likely that we'll see the Ryzen 9000 version, which will be really interesting to see more in terms of what it does for gaming as well, because let's be honest, these numbers actually make the 7800X 3D look a little slow. Now, like I said, these gaming numbers are at 1080p, and we'll be very intrigued to see what the performance difference is at 1440p, 4K, especially since AMD did take a cheeky dig at Intel by talking about the Gen 5 graphics bandwidth. Now, while we don't have consumer GPUs that are saturating the PCI lane, especially AMD doesn't, we still don't know what AMD, NVIDIA, or Intel have in store for their next-gen GPUs. And remember, AMD is actually planning on supporting the AM5 platform for a very long time, so there is some future-proofing here when you consider all that. Speaking of PCI Gen 5, let's go ahead and talk about the new chipsets they talk about. It isn't really unexpected, but we're also getting a new X870 and X870E chipset. Both will offer USB 4 support as a standard across all X870 and X870E motherboards. DDR5 continues with support for higher memory clock speeds via Expo profiles, and PCI Gen 5 support is there for both NVMe drivers and by 16 lanes for GPUs. While this all sounds great, there were a few things that we didn't hear that are worth mentioning. Number one, AMD did not mention Wi-Fi 7. Or Thunderbolt 5, which is probably a little less surprising. Considering the potential of both, this feels like a really big mess. Wi-Fi specifically. As cool as Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, they were kind of blasé, like they were like the tapioca pudding of Wi-Fi updates. But when you jump to Wi-Fi 7, it's actually magical thanks to multi-link operation, or MLO. I can see these features missing on your B series motherboards, but on your high-end motherboards, I don't know, it's a little weird to say that to the least. To be fair, they also didn't say that they won't be there, but I don't know. When you're doing an announcement like this, it just really feels like it should have been there, and it's probably not. But we'll see. Speaking of B series, I'm actually a little sad they didn't say anything about their B series motherboards during the announcement. Listen, we love high-end motherboards as much as the next guy, but let's be honest, most of us don't want to spend that kind of money. I just hope we hear something soon about the B series motherboards rather than having to wait months for them, though waiting months and the announcements in July, yeah, that better be soon. At the end of the day though, the announcement about the Ryzen 9000 series is a really exciting one. But keep in mind, we haven't heard or seen what Intel is planning next. So right now, AMD is comparing their performance to an architecture that is 12th gen, 13th gen, 14th gen. These are a new hybrid architecture, but they're old, and they're very powerful, but they're also very power hungry. What we know about Intel's next gen, specifically Arrow Lake, is that they're going to be very similar to Intel's Meteor Lake mobile processors. They're more than likely going to be far more energy efficient, as well as more powerful, and they could even fix McDonald's ice cream machines. We just don't know anything yet, and we definitely don't know enough to know who's coming out on top here. What we do know is that AMD's new CPUs and motherboards are set to drop in July, and you can bet your bottom dollar that we will absolutely be taking a closer look at them as soon as they come out. So if you want to see them, why don't you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss it when we do our coverage of Ryzen 9000 when it launches. One very cool note is AMD updated their timeline for how long they're going to be supporting the AM5 socket. Right now, they're saying that they're going to be supporting it through 2027 and potentially even beyond if what we saw from Zen 4 is any indication. Guys, that's already a 2-year extension, only 1 year after it got released. What this means is that AMD is sticking to their commitment to the longevity of the platform by making sure that the 600 series motherboards are compatible with Ryzen 9000 series CPUs and that the X870 platform will be backwards compatible with Ryzen 7000 series chips and beyond, right? We're talking Ryzen 11,000, 15,000, whatever the thousands, they're all gonna fit in all of the boards all the way till 2027 at least. We'll have to see what kind of limitations, if any, there are for older motherboards. But you know what, I gotta say, I gotta admire AMD's commitment to the platform. And it's not just AM5 that AMD is continuing support for. They also announced, this is crazy, new AM4 CPUs. We've got the brand new Ryzen 9 5900 XT and the Ryzen 7 5800 XT. Okay, so just a quick note on all of these. And we're gonna throw up a chart right now. Basically, AMD is gonna compare these CPUs to Intel's Core i7 13700K and their Core i5 13600KF, which honestly, the numbers look interesting when you consider that these CPUs share a socket with 14th gen. Now, by AMD's own charts, that comparison wouldn't be as kind to the 5800 XT or the 5900 XT. The choice is interesting to say the least, especially when AMD is building these as high performance for gamers and creators. Just for context, you know what? I can't upgrade a 5000 series to a 7000 series, but I can upgrade a 13th gen to a 14th gen. Just something to think about when you look at these comparisons, given that I can do that upgrade. I don't know, I just feel like they should have compared it to 14th gen. Now, is AMD trying to squeeze more money out of AM4? Well, considering that 4 of the 6 top-selling CPUs on Amazon are Ryzen 5000 series CPUs, it seems like the platform is still hot. So if people are still buying them, I guess we gotta give credit where credit is due. They're still supporting the platform. Is this a solid strategy? I mean, they do want people to move to the new platform, right? But they're just keeping people on the old one and giving them continued reason to spend money on it. So I guess time will tell if this is the right call. Speaking of maximizing platforms, AMD talked about their brand new next generation AI-ready mobile processors, the Ryzen AI 300 series. And honestly, I'm not mad about the new name. A new platform is probably the best time to change a new naming convention. And to be honest, they've been grabbing a ton of market share when it comes to laptops. AMD says that they wanted to do a better job helping customers know when you're looking at 2 different types of laptops, whether it's more of your thin and light style laptop or if it's more of your performance focused gaming and production style laptop. To distinguish between these two, the highest performance chips add an HX right smack in the middle of the name, followed by a 3-digit number. The first number marks the series and the next 2 digits the SKU. So for the Ryzen AI 300 series, we have the Ryzen AI 9 365. And then you have the Ryzen AI 9 HX 370. I know it's a lot to say, and honestly guys, I know as I was emphasizing here, but here's the deal. Just being able to look up HX and then the first number in the lineup to know what you're getting is actually pretty convenient. All you gotta do is like HX plus 3, series 3. HX 4 would mean something better, etc. But it's still, guys, it still sounds like somebody was really rolling their face just on the keyboard. Now, when it does come to the actual details of the chip, the Ryzen AI 300 series are driven by the new Zen 5 cores. But remember, this is a mobile CPU. It's not exactly one-to-one with desktop CPUs. In other words, all of these cores are not the same. While they are technically all Zen 5 cores, we noticed that some of these cores were labeled Zen 5C. Now, just as a reminder, these Zen 5C cores are efficiency cores, much like the one that we've seen in other ARM and x86 architectures. But to give you the breakdown, okay, and let's just start getting ready here. The Ryzen AI 9 365 CPUs have 4 Zen 5 cores and 6 Zen 5C cores for a total of 10 cores and 20 threads. The Ryzen AI 9 HX 370 CPUs have 4 Zen 5 cores and 8 Zen 5C cores for a total of 12 cores and 24 threads. I gotta say, I got that right. It was only 47 takes, but I also gotta say, I'm actually really glad to see the bump in core counts. It's a very impressive amount of cores. Now, it is worth noting here that the wattage for these CPUs range from 15 to 54 watts. AMD says that it's basically allowing partners, and guys, this is not surprising, but basically allowing them to decide how much power to deliver to these different chips. And if you've ever watched some of our big live shows, we've talked about this before, but that for sure, if you see that HX in the name, that will always represent the highest performing version of whatever their laptops are. Now, more than likely, these HX chips will end up in beefy laptops like your MSI Titans, your Asus ROG Scars, or your Aorus X series of laptops. Now, as for the GPU, the Ryzen AI 300 series chips have what AMD is calling the RDNA 3.5 cores. While we don't have a whole lot of information on what this actually means, we've seen AMD use this 0.5 moniker when they're basically taken an existing architecture and then they've added a few more cores or compute units. It's basically an incremental improvement. Now, what we do know for sure is that those 2 Ryzen AI 300 series processors will have the Radeon 880M with 12 compute units in the 365 and the Radeon 890M with 16 compute units in the HX370. Now, from a gaming performance standpoint, AMD is showing the Ryzen 9 HX370 taking a pretty serious lead over Intel's Core Ultra 185H, which we'll talk about in just a second. And for those numbers, AMD is showing a 38% lead in F1 2023, a 47% lead in Cyberpunk 2077, and if you want to see the other games they showed data for, go ahead and, you know what, just pause. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere. Now, I gotta say, this is kind of an odd comparison here. While these chips are both a new generation of mobile processors with CPUs, GPUs, and NPUs all on the same die, the comparison is taking AMD's third generation RDNA, along with years of title optimization and driver support, and putting it up against Intel's first generation Arc GPU. To be fair to Arc, Intel continues to improve Arc performance, but it's not really quite one-to-one here. With all the announcements happening here, in fact the one that's going to be happening tomorrow if you're watching this right after the briefing, it's going to be super interesting to see what Intel has in store with Lunar Lake. We should be seeing a massive back and forth battle between these two mobile processors, given that it's rumored that Lunar Lake will actually have Intel's new Battlemage GPU, while Meteor Lake has the older Alchemist. The other thing that was actually also super interesting, and I know it's not in the script here, is that they still should have done some comparisons against the 14900HX, which is actually more of the raw gaming performance one, versus only just using Core Ultra, which wasn't necessarily focused at gaming performance, etc. So there's a couple things that are just going to be interesting once we get our hands on. So these Ryzen AI laptops are rolling out as early as July, so hopefully we'll get a better picture of the AMD side while we wait for Intel's next gen 2. Okay, brace yourself guys, because we got to talk about AI a bit now. And I mean, it's literally in the name of Ryzen's AI processors. It's literally on every product being announced and talked about at Computex. It's literally even in Cooler Master's new AI thermal paste. What does that even mean? I even saw a can of AI soup at the Taipei night market. So we've got to talk about what AMD is doing with AI, not the soup. Still trying to figure that one out. So let's start with the hardware, because AMD is actually really excited about bringing their XDNA 2 NPU to their new mobile chips. With Microsoft's big push to integrate AI into the Windows OS with things like Copilot Plus and Windows Studio Effects, AMD's aim is making sure that their devices are ready for whatever that next era is for the PC and what it's going to be. Now, while they did actually integrate an NPU into their previous generation mobile processors, Microsoft set a bar of 40 TOPS for Copilot Plus PCs. In those previous processors, the number of TOPS, or trillions of operations per second, range from 10 to 16 TOPS. 10 and 16 don't really sound like 40, even if you put them together. With, however, the Ryzen AI 300 series, AMD pushed beyond the requirement of 40 TOPS and landed at 50. It's always great to see big numbers. AMD is also looking to see how their NPUs are handling AI instructions more efficiently and effectively. And now that we've talked about some numbers, we've got to talk about TOPS. Here's the deal, guys. It's a benchmark, not a yardstick. TOPS is it's like teraflops. It's just a way of saying, here's how good we are at computing. The same thing's kind of happening here. Just to kind of give you a lay of the land, Intel has actually already been out and shipped tens of millions of units. Now, because of that, what's happening is, just like AMD, when they basically have all of their GPUs and Steam Decks and consoles, people start to work with that particular architecture. Now the question is, because there's so many units already out there, the thing is if people are getting more used to an architecture, it has a tendency to run more efficiently. So even though we have TOPS, what does this mean? Until we have real benchmarks and real AI, we're not going to really have an understanding of how to measure true performance when it comes to AI PCs. That's not to say that Intel's a winner yet. That is far from the truth. We are just starting this game. But it's just to be clear, don't get stuck in this whole TOPS thing and go to your local Discord server or Twitter and be like, we got more TOPS. It's literally nothing. And here's the other thing. Honestly, AI is still in the realm of nebulous when it comes to you, the consumer, versus like big businesses who spend billions on giant machines that can tell you how much times a Ritz cracker will be eaten in the future. We've seen a lot of demos do a lot of really cool things, but I can't buy into the hype until there's something more tangible for you guys. But I gotta give AMD some props here. they have probably been the one that's been the most helpful to talk about how AI will be additive to our lives by doing things like helping us tailor things like PowerPoint presentations to specific audiences, or summarizing emails, basically making your workflows better in a very natural way. For AMD and for people like you should kind of look at AI like Wi-Fi, or for like how basically we went from MS-DOS to graphic user interfaces. While most people were slow to adopt them at first, once they were fully integrated, they became a very important quality of life thing, and things that you would absolutely miss if they disappeared today. So in the meantime, guys, when it comes to AI, you could absolutely be cautious, but I would even say be cautiously optimistic. There are a lot of companies, AMD, Intel, Nvidia, that are spending a lot of money to make AI happen. And I don't think it's a forced thing, because I mean, when you look, let's be honest, when you look at Nvidia's market cap, obviously something is happening. And we are absolutely in a huge race to grab market share, and that race is far from over by any stretch. So here's the question, Robey, do you actually believe in AI? Well, yes. I think it's actually going to have a very big impact, but I don't think you, the viewer right now, is really going to know how big that impact is until AI gets more and more integrated into how we use our PCs on a daily basis. And that impact is really only going to be seen when you all of a sudden switch from an AI PC to a non-AI PC, and then you lose access to those features, and you're going to be like, wait, why does it not do that? Okay, so we got to wrap things up because I think this video is like 4 hours long, but when we look at the whole presentation, of which there was an awful lot to cover, AMD has a lot to be proud of. Seeing the new generation of Zen 5 processors is awesome, and the new laptop chips I am expecting are going to be very rad. AMD is cooking up a bunch of new stuff. It's exciting stuff if you like seeing tech move forward. So Robey, are you excited about this? Yes, but I have to make sure that the promises and the expectations align on both the mobile and desktop side, and that we do the appropriate comparisons to really see how well they all stack up between Snapdragon, AMD, and Intel. We also, honestly, we just don't know what Intel's answer is going to be to AMD's massive flag in the ground. And until we can actually get these products in our hot little hands and then make sure that the numbers match what AMD is telling us, I really can't make any recommendations, but I like the idea of everything I've heard. What I can say with certainty is this: advancements like these are great for current and future PC builders and users. More efficient, powerful, and feature-rich devices will always be wins in my book. And it seems like there is a lot to get excited about from the team at AMD. But what about you? Was there something that you heard about that has you excited about what AMD has in store? Are you excited for both the mobile or CPU chips? And are you a mobile or CPU guy? Let us know all that down in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button with that like button and ring that notification bell so that you get notifications each and every time we post videos just like this right here on Robeytech. Also, if you want to continue the conversation, why don't you head over to our Discord server, discord.gg/Robeytech. We love to talk to you about brand new AMD processors, Intel processors, whatever hardware you want to throw in your machine. And you know what? You might just make a friend. Also, make sure that you follow us on all the other social channels at Robeytech, absolutely everywhere. So we'll be talking more about Ryzen 9000 series and Ryzen AI 300 series here in the future. And who knows, we may even check out some of those brand new AM4 CPUs too. Anyway, guys, we'll be sharing more information from Computex soon, so stick around. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.